Imagine a world where every movement you make is slow, so slow that moss begins to grow on your body. Your top speed? A dazzling 0.03 miles per hour. Your digestive system is a maze of slowness, taking weeks to process even the simplest meals. And your best chance at survival is hoping that no one notices you. Welcome to the life of a sloth, the epitome of slow living. Congratulations, you've just been born. Well, sort of. You're not quite out of the egg yet, and your first experience of life is already a bizarre one. Your cozy existence begins wrapped up in a ball of poop. Yes, you heard me right. While other animals are born into warm, soft nests or sheltered burrows, your very first world is a ball of dung. Not the ideal start, but in the sloth world, this dung ball is your first meal. As strange as it sounds, it's a vital part of your survival. The good news is that this poop ball is full of nutrients. The bad news is, you don't get to choose what you eat. This is the way sloths roll. Once you hatch, you emerge as a tiny, squishy larvae, with no real control over your body or environment. Your first instinct is simple: eat. Your second instinct? Eat more. But here's the catch. You're an easy target. Your body is vulnerable, soft, and defenseless. Imagine being a worm in a bird sanctuary. The rainforest is a perilous place, filled with predators that are just waiting for an easy meal like you. But don't worry, you're not completely helpless. Over time, you'll adapt to this slow-moving world. Let's fast forward past the larvae stage. Thankfully, it doesn't last long, and arrive at the good part, adulthood. Now you're a fully grown sloth, hanging in the treetops of Central or South America's dense rainforests. You've got some real survival skills, or at least one. Moving slowly. In fact, moving is an art form for sloths. It's not just slow, it's deliberate. Every single action you make is carefully calculated to conserve energy. Your life as an adult is all about hanging out, literally. In the wild, sloths spend about 99% of their lives in the trees, suspended in the branches, never moving faster than necessary. Your favorite pastime? Reaching out to grab leaves, just enough to sustain you, and barely enough to be noticed by the outside world. While other animals scurry around, hunting, foraging, and engaging in all sorts of frantic survival activities, you remain still, barely moving except to take another slow, deliberate bite of your leafy meal. But while sloths are perfectly adapted for a life of slow motion, there's a major downside to this lifestyle: predators. Despite your slow and steady existence, the rainforest is home to some of the most dangerous creatures on the planet. Harpy eagles, jaguars, and snakes all prey on the sloth, patiently waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Your primary defense mechanism? Not being noticed. Sloths have perfected the art of blending in with the environment. You look like part of the tree, and that camouflage can be life-saving. The harpy eagle, for example, has remarkable vision, and is one of the few creatures that can spot you while you're hanging in the trees. The eagle's sharp talons can pluck you right off the branch, and in a flash, you're its next meal. Jaguars have a different strategy. They wait for you to make a mistake. Since you're so slow and predictable, a jaguar knows that sooner or later you'll make an unwise move, and that's when it will strike. Snakes, too, will sometimes target you. They'll patiently slither up the tree, and when you make your next move, they'll strike. But there's a silver lining. Some predators avoid sloths altogether, not because they are intimidated, but because sloths are slow and unappetizing. After all, who wants to expend so much energy on an animal that doesn't fight back and has little nutritional value? Sloths are not the most desirable meal for most predators, which is why many of them simply ignore you. This is a rare advantage in the animal kingdom, being so slow and unimpressive that predators don't even bother with you. Now, let's move on to one of the most perplexing behaviors of sloths: their baffling decision to climb down from the trees to poop. Yes, you heard that right. Despite spending nearly their entire lives hanging in the trees, sloths decide that the most suitable place to do their business is on the forest floor. It's a highly risky move, given that the ground is where most predators lie in wait. But sloths have an instinctual drive to descend for this particular task. It's still unclear why sloths choose to climb down to the ground for their bathroom breaks. Some scientists believe it's a survival instinct, perhaps the need to leave scent markers or avoid contaminating their tree home. Others speculate that it could be some strange ritual, or perhaps just another quirky, inefficient aspect of their slow-paced lives. Unfortunately, this decision to climb down the trees has a fatal downside. It contributes to nearly half of sloth deaths. The sloth climbs down, only to become an easy target for predators waiting below. Can you imagine a world where every bathroom trip has a 50% chance of ending your life? It's a terrifying thought, and it makes you wonder why sloths continue this behavior. But like everything in a sloth's life, it's just another strange, slow-motion act of survival. As you grow older, the challenges of being a sloth don't get easier. They just become a part of your rhythm. You're no longer the helpless baby hanging on to your mother for dear life. Now you're learning the ropes of surviving in the trees. And if there's one thing you've mastered by now, it's patience. You've already discovered that survival for sloths doesn't come from speed or power, but from an unwavering commitment to one rule: slow down. The slow life isn't just a lifestyle for you, it's a survival strategy. By the time you reach a few months old, you've become more independent. You've learned to carefully crawl between the tree branches, moving with slow deliberation. The trick, as you soon realize, isn't to rush from one place to another. It's to stay quiet, blend in, and stay unnoticed for as long as possible. If you can achieve that, your chances of survival skyrocket. But even though you're more agile now, you're still not the fastest animal in the jungle. Far from it. One of the most fascinating things about sloths is the way they have evolved to survive despite their extreme slowness. Most animals rely on agility, speed, or strength to evade predators, but sloths have developed an entirely different approach. They've adapted to become virtually invisible, blending into the thick foliage of the rainforest. When you hang upside down for hours at a time, wrapped in the branches of a tree, you start to resemble nothing more than a piece of bark or moss. And that's exactly what predators need to see. A sloth that looks like a non-threat, a part of the scenery, blending in perfectly with the background. For a sloth, survival means not moving too much. So much of your life is spent hanging motionless, taking in the environment around you. But there's another side to this strategy: energy conservation. The slower you move, the fewer calories you burn. The fewer calories you burn, the less you need to eat. And that's one of the key factors in your survival. While other animals in the rainforest are constantly on the move, hunting, scavenging, or foraging, you're saving your precious energy. You don't waste it on unnecessary movements. But let's be honest, slow doesn't always work. Sometimes, despite your best efforts to blend in, predators come calling. Enter the harpy eagle, one of your most persistent enemies. With its sharp talons and eagle-eyed vision, the harpy eagle can spot you from a distance. And when it does, you're in big trouble. If you're unlucky enough to be within striking distance, the eagle will swoop down and pluck you from your perch, all before you have the chance to process what's happening. The best defense against the harpy eagle? Don't be where it can see you. But that's easier said than done when the rainforest is constantly teeming with life and opportunities to get caught. Then there are the jaguars, the stealthy big cats of the jungle. Jaguars are known for their patience. They'll lie in wait, watching and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And they know that a sloth is a slow-moving target, a meal that doesn't even realize it's in danger. Jaguars will often wait until you make a mistake. A slight slip, a moment of carelessness, and the jaguar will pounce, and that's the end for you. Even snakes aren't above taking a swipe at a sloth. These serpents, coiled and silent, can strike from below, wrapping their long bodies around their prey and squeezing with lethal force. They're quiet, swift, and incredibly patient, much like the jaguars. Unfortunately, as a sloth, you don't have much of a chance when a snake decides you're its next meal. But there's one silver lining in all of this. You're not always considered worth the effort. Most predators tend to avoid sloths because you're slow, unappetizing, and hard to catch. You might not be the perfect target, but it's still a jungle out there, and you have to be cautious. Let's shift gears now to one of the more bizarre behaviors that sloths engage in: climbing down from the trees to poop. Yes, you read that correctly. While other animals use their homes as bathrooms, sloths, for reasons that are still a mystery, climb down from the trees and make their way to the forest floor. It's as though they've forgotten that the entire rainforest is filled with predators just waiting for a slow-moving sloth to descend into their grasp. But for some reason, this ritual has become part of the sloth's life cycle. Some scientists suggest that sloths climb down to poop in order to leave scent markings for other sloths. Or maybe it's to avoid contaminating their tree homes with waste. Others speculate that it's simply an instinctual drive that sloths can't shake off. Whatever the reason, this odd behavior comes with a huge cost. Sloths that make the dangerous trip to the forest floor have a much higher chance of being killed by predators. In fact, around half of all sloth deaths are the result of this risky move. It seems illogical, but it's part of the slow, often confusing life cycle of the sloth. And speaking of confusing, let's dive into the romantic lives of sloths. When it comes to love, sloths aren't exactly known for their high-energy courtship rituals. Sloths don't communicate much. They don't make noise, they don't move quickly, and they certainly don't put on any flashy displays. Their social skills are so underdeveloped that their entire mating process is, well, as slow as the rest of their lives. When a female sloth is ready to mate, she releases a faint call that might be heard by a male sloth nearby. If he's interested, he embarks on the slowest courtship journey imaginable. The male sloth begins the long trek across the branches of the trees, slowly inching his way toward the female. This journey can take hours or even days, and if another male shows up along the way, there's a brief battle, but it's not much of a fight. The two males will lethargically swipe at each other, like sleepy toddlers fighting over a toy. If the male reaches the female in time, they mate, and then go their separate ways. There's no romance, no courtship, no long-lasting bonds. The entire process is as slow and uneventful as the rest of the sloth's life. If a female sloth does have a baby, she carries it around for a few months, providing constant care. But one day, the baby will find itself dangling from a branch, and the mother will simply stop holding on. The baby has to cling for its life, but if it loses its grip, gravity takes over, and down it falls. It's a dangerous world for a sloth, and sometimes the best survival tactic is simply to not make a move at all. Now, let's fast forward to the end of a sloth's life. Sloths don't die in the traditional sense. They don't get old and sick, They don't succumb to disease. Instead, they simply stop moving. When a sloth reaches the later stages of life, it begins to slow down even more. One day, it might fall asleep and never wake up, or it may miscalculate a branch and fall into the deepest slumber of all time. But at least for the sloth, there's some peace in that. A quiet exit, free from the dangers of predators and the harshness of the world around them. Being a sloth means living in slow motion. It's a constant battle against the elements, against predators, and even against the very instincts that drive you to move. But there's beauty in that slowness. There's something peaceful about moving at a pace that allows you to take in the world around you without rushing. And while it might not be the most glamorous way to live, it's a life worth respecting. In the end, what we can learn from the sloth is that sometimes taking life slow is the most effective strategy. When you move too quickly, you might miss the beauty around you, or worse, you might be overwhelmed by it. But when you slow down, when you take your time, you can truly appreciate everything the world has to offer. So, the next time you see a sloth hanging lazily from a tree, remember, they're not lazy. They're just living life at their own pace, taking their time and enjoying the ride.